Hi, everyone. Thanks again for joining us for another episode of the Daily BizLink. Jane Cebrynski is back, and today we're talking about winning strategies for winning our well-being as it relates to not taking things personally. So, Jane, thanks for being here.
Thank you so much, Lindsay. So let's kick it off, though, with a 10 moment.
My 10 moment. There were lots of 10 moments. We just celebrated, the 4th of July, Independence Day, which was a lot of fun. I don't know how it was for a lot of you, but it was just so refreshing for me this year, to have the parades back in place and to see a lot of people, gathered with friends and family. It was just really nice. So still living off of that big high from the 4th of July weekend.
I know, and I love that. And there's been so much talk about freedom that, I thought we would continue with a conversation that we launched last week from the book, The Four Agreements, and talk about the second agreement, which is to not take things personally. And that is super great for creating mental freedom and therefore for our overall well-being.
Sounds like a great plan. I know that was we offered some great winning strategies last week. So I'm excited to continue that one and talking about not taking things personally. Gosh, we do it, whether that's in our personal lives and professional lives. So excited to hear a little bit more on this today.
Yeah, what I find is, this is one of the hardest things, and it shows up a lot in my coaching workouts. And, it's very multifaceted because oftentimes if we take something personal, then number one, we might be believing what the person is saying. So for example, if I said, I really don't like your haircut. Well, if you're already questioning your haircut and you're not really sure, you will take that personally and it will affect you. But if you love your haircut, then you won't care what I think about it, and that's kind of the nuance of not taking things personally. And because we have a tendency, if it works on something that we're already lacking confidence in or something we have doubt in within ourselves, we'll respond to it. And when we do that, then we feel offended sometimes. And then the natural human nature is to want to defend and explain ourselves. And that can oftentimes create conflict. And so, the other thing too about, if we take things personally, if we can practice really recognizing our own response to it and where that comes from, right? Because it may come from our own insecurities, it may come from our ego, or we can recognize that it really says something more about the other person, especially if they feel the need to say something that puts you down or, tries to make you feel bad about yourself intentionally. That says a lot more about the junk that's going on in their lives than what it says about us.
Well, I do think this one hits home for me. I don't know about you. I've had some awkward encounters, and I think people are just getting used to being in front of other people in general, but you do hear some odd comments. And at times, I agree, your initial gut reaction is just to get a little defensive. But, if you use these strategies to, let that one slide and think, no, this is more so kind of something that they're personally going through, I think it will help you with navigating it.
Well, and the thing is too, is, the tool, there's a couple of different tools that I would anchor in when that shows up for me, because of course it shows up in my life. And, if it's on a professional note, then rather than seeing it as criticism and taking it personally, you can just receive it as feedback. And that's the difference between letting our ego be driven by it versus just receiving the information and going, okay, is there something for me to learn from this? Or can I just ignore it? It doesn't really, impact me in that way. And again, this is all for our own emotional management and for our own well-being. And of course, we know people in our lives that take things personally all the time. And God bless them, because, oftentimes what it does to us is it impacts our emotions and our energy. If you think about somebody that, oh my gosh, they're going to be offended if I don't invite them with me to this thing, or they're going to be offended if I don't include them on this. It's exhausting. And you find yourself sometimes fibbing or, hemming and hawing over what do I do? And, it's just, it's such a drain on our energy and has such an impact on our well-being.
So Jane, as we look to wrap up today's conversation, do you have a challenge of the week?
Well, I think you've got to first look at yourself and go, okay, am I one of those people that takes things personally? And how do I respond to it? And what is the reason behind my response? Is it my ego? And that requires a great sense of self-reflection and possible vulnerability to acknowledge, like, yeah, that was really about my ego. And so, beginning to master the concept of not taking things personally. It allows you to receive information, it allows you to open up and grow, but then it also allows you to really manage your emotions and realize that, most things really aren't about us. We just like to think they are.
Well, this sounds like a great self-awareness activity and challenge for the week. So Jane, thanks so much for joining us for today's conversation.
Great. Thanks so much for having me, Lindsay.